Welcome to Distribution Talk with Jason Vader, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and solutions from business owners and thought leaders in the wholesale distribution market. Hey, podcast listeners, Jason here. In this episode, I had the pleasure of catching up with Dan Esch. Dan is the president of Esch Construction Supply, based in St. Paul, Minnesota. I've known Dan for several years. He's just one of those guys that you can talk to for hours. Gratitude and service just flow through his personality. I enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you will too. This episode of Distribution Talk is sponsored by InSQL Distribution Software. InSQL is a fully functional distribution-based software package, and these folks do it very well at a price point many smaller distributors can afford. Another thing I like about this company is they do it all in-house. They take on these applications and build them into the platform using state-of-the-art Microsoft technology. No third-party bolt-ons for them. This is important because when you need technical assistance, they are the single point of contact. If you're ready to step up to a fully loaded, scalable distribution package at an affordable price, look no further than InSQL Distribution Software at www.insql.com. That's INXSQL.com. All right, Dan. Well, hey, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Jason. Good to be here.
Well, as you know, on Distribution Talk, man, I like to go back to the origin. I want to know, how did you get involved with your organization? You know, did you fall into it? Did you buy into it? How did you get involved with the company?
I really fell into it. I was going to college studying finance. I wanted to be a banker, a commercial lender. And my uncle, this diamond blade business, he was running out of his garage in St. Paul. And he said, hey, I need some help. Would you be willing to do a one-year internship with me so that you have a sense and flavor for small business? And I had already done an internship with Honeywell and a big corporation. I thought, this is perfect. I'll get a flavor of large corp, small business. And so he hired me and I started. On day one, I literally fell in love with construction. And I knew right away this was my home. And I wanted to stay here and figure out how to make a living in it. And the people in construction are wonderful people. And I literally got that on day one. So I worked for my uncle for 10 years. I scrapped the banking mission and I worked as a 100% commission sales rep for 10 years and really enjoyed it. And in 1998, my uncle offered the business to my wife and I. We said, I'm ready to sell. I want to get out. And so we seized that opportunity. We were still running that business out of our vehicles with trunks that were full of diamond blades. The point of sale was on job sites. We did not have a store. So there was just so much opportunity to scale and grow this business, and we were excited about it. So we bought this diamond blade business that was being run out of the garage and moved it into a small warehouse and hired a couple of really successful sales reps and got our start. So those were exciting times.
Sounds great. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm kind of intrigued from the banking aspect. And I think you went in with noble intentions, just wanting to look at, hey, how does a small business run? Because I'm going to lend these people money and I should probably get a feel for, how they run. Banking or that finance background. Do you think that's been a help in your career now?
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. I mean, I've always loved profit and loss statements, budgeting, forecasting, cash flow analysis. And so I've been able to get that in the course of running this business. So that definitely, I've satisfied that need to study finance and live it and learn it. It's been great.
One of the things that I've seen over the years, as I've been working with different companies and frankly, when I was in the business myself, is that some of the most successful distributors really had a strong understanding of the financials. The ones I see that struggle or have failed over the years, they have really not paid attention to that side. So I'm going to sell my way out of the problem, and sales is omnipotent. And, sales is absolutely the bread and butter, and that is the driving life force of the organization. But if you can't manage your money, it's going to be a short road.
You're absolutely right. We've scaled the business and grown quite a bit since 98. Today, our general manager is a certified CPA, and finance is her skill and it's her strength. And I really love that position when the person that's running your day-to-day operation has a deep understanding of finance. And of course, I have a love and passion for it as well. I think it's really helped us grow this business successfully.
Oh, that's interesting to hear. Actually, my new business partner and a couple clients, their CFO has actually moved to a more operational role in the organization. But I think you're right. That finance background, that money background, profit and loss, expenses has really helped them understand that operational side and helped keep that healthy, if you will.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. And as general manager with a love of finance, our GM is constantly teaching and training operations leaders, marketing leaders, sales leaders about finance. And that's been really fun to watch and to watch people develop those skills. And it's also interesting during our review process, we ask people about career path and where they want to go. And more often than not, Jason, they want to get to a high level position in the organization, but they don't have the finance background. So either they don't have a natural talent or really an interest and desire to learn it. And there's definitely a home for them, but it's probably not going to be in the general manager role or an executive level position.
It's interesting that you say that. And I think that that's something that maybe is lost with a couple of folks who are at least young leaders, emerging leaders in the organization, is that if they don't have that strong grip on financials, that they are probably not going to go past a certain point. And I think that would be a terrific suggestion or message to newer people in the organizations is that, hey, understand the finances. You don't have to be a CPA. Just get your arms around this so that you feel comfortable looking at these types of documents.
Absolutely. And I've seen many people in our organization that have been able to pick up those skills. It comes down to desire and a little natural ability. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Dan, hey, look, if I can learn how to read these documents, anybody can learn how to read these documents. Let's face it, that was not my forte coming into this gig, but eventually, it starts to make sense. And then for me, it really came down to, okay, how do I control my destiny around profitability? Well, in order to do that, I have got to understand how the money works in the organization. So
Exactly.
well, hey, if I could switch gears or actually really pull on a thread a little bit about you were selling concrete blades right out of the garage and then you went into a warehouse. If I understand correctly, I mean, you've really stayed along that concrete cutting or that concrete manipulation, if you will, type of track in your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a member of STAFTA and I love meeting other STAFTA leaders and learning about their business. Every one of them has a great niche and that's how they're successful. Our particular niche, and we're not a typical STAFTA dealer because we don't sell fasteners, but our particular niche is concrete cutting. So I've always said anything that cuts, grinds, drills, or pounds concrete, we sell it. And we sell the equipment, we sell the diamond tooling, we offer parts and repair and the support of those sales. And then we go out and solve problems and ask contractors how we can help them. And really that deep knowledge of that niche is where you can really add value. That's really where the fun of this business is. Because if you don't have deep knowledge and solutions to help contractors or whoever your market is, whoever you're serving, you become a commodity very quickly.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you're definitely right. And that tight fix does give you that opportunity. It makes it easier to train your employees and then to make them appear very confident when they go out and become those problem solvers, in the field.
Yeah, absolutely. That confidence is fun and it leads to all kinds of opportunities. You think of sales, Jason, you're planting seeds and you're trying to get the prospect to invite you to help them. And the day they do that, that's where the fun begins. And they don't do that if you don't have a specialty or a depth of knowledge or that confidence that you speak of.
Right. That whole jack of all trades, master of none is just not going to get you those firm relationships. It doesn't give you really the opportunity to serve. And that's really all this business is about. It's about service.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where those relationships are built. And that's what our business is about.
Now, being in that concrete cutting, drilling, polishing, and all of those different things up in the upper Midwest, I mean, is it a relatively seasonal endeavor?
It certainly is. Yeah. They say we have two seasons here, winter and road construction.
Gotcha.
We're really busy when the thaw happens, and hopefully that happens in March, but oftentimes it doesn't happen till April or May. But a typical season, we'll start getting extremely busy in March, and we'll go all the way to the end of November into Thanksgiving. And at that point, half of our business, which is seasonal contractors, build roads and bridges and install utility lines and do landscape type projects and outdoor concrete work. Those contractors, they close up at the end of November, and many of them go ice fishing. And you don't see them again until end of February, early March. So the other half of our business is commercial concrete and masonry, and we stay busy in that arena all year long. The folks in the north are resourceful, and they figured out ways to build enclosures and heat the space and just keep the building going. It doesn't slow down until you get well below zero when equipment doesn't run very well.
Gotcha. I was going to ask you what you did to fill the time, but it sounds like this other half of your business, the folks that may be working more commercially, they could probably fill that gap a little bit.
Definitely. And I would say the little downturn that we experienced between November and March is really a great time to regroup, close the books. Strategic planning is done. The budgeting cycle is kind of a natural. We have all kinds of trade shows all winter to attend to. So I've always enjoyed the flow of just that little seasonal downturn.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. I mean, I've always believed, and it's very interesting, as I teach those seminars, and I've always been intrigued why my fall seminars or my late fall, my November seminars aren't as well attended, because I'm thinking, wait a minute, this is ideal. This is when you're slowing down a little bit and you've got time to work on that business before the spring rush or maybe even the January rush or whenever it hits for most people. But I never really understood why I don't draw as many in the end of the year.
Well, we take advantage of gifted consultants and associations we're a part of, and companies like the distribution team. And that off season is a great time to do that because you can really slow down, stop, and be present and really learn. And that's another super important part of this business is that we're constantly learning.
Sure. Now, going on the other side of the season, when you start ramping up and you're blowing and going, you've got to capitalize on that road construction, really window of time there. You have gotten very involved with a rapid delivery service. Could you talk a little bit about that and what that's done for your company?
Yeah, sure can. We have trained our customers that they can get their product or service in a very short time frame. And it's been a blessing and a curse. The blessing is we're constantly doing 90-minute deliveries. We're doing, oftentimes same-day repairs. And wow, I mean, you take a lot of the competition out of play when you can operate that quickly. But as you know, Jason, that's a very expensive proposition.
It is.
We've got 5 delivery trucks going in St. Paul on any one day, and they're all going in different directions, trying to meet this 90-minute promise. And this is something that we've worked on, trying to figure out how we can retrain some of our customers. And that initiative's going well. It's not going quite as fast as I would like to see it, but I'd like to get to a point where we send out a couple of trucks each day, and they have multiple deliveries on them. And so we keep a scorecard with how many deliveries are on each truck, and we're making progress.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I remember, Dan, when I came out to visit you, and I'm thinking it's got to be 4 or 5 years ago now, seeing all of these pickup trucks in the parking lot. And I asked, well, how many drivers do you have? He's like, well, I got 2. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Hold on a second. The math is not working out here. What do you mean here? And then you explain this whole thing. So it's an expensive endeavor, but honestly, I mean, I think it has really driven that loyalty and that success in a fairly niche business.
Yeah, without a doubt. As we've expanded to other markets, every market is unique. And of course, we're partially a product of the way we've trained our customers, but also certainly we respond the way the competitive landscape has directed us. And so this market here, you better move quickly here. We're in other markets now where a delivery the next day or 2 days is perfectly acceptable. So that's a space that's a lot easier to operate in financially.
Definitely. You all really built your business on this rapid fulfillment and being high touch to the companies and these contractors out there. But then now moving into other markets where that's not as expected. Have you found that to be a struggle with really throttling back? I think that's probably the best way to think about it.
That's a good question. I wouldn't say it's been a struggle. I really much prefer it. I mean, it's
Yeah, a breath of fresh air, perhaps, maybe.
exactly. There's a frenetic pace here in the Twin Cities market where you just have got to get out and go and deliver right now. But when we're prospecting and doing annual reviews and sales calls, we talk about helping contractors plan ahead. And when we do that, when we collaborate and plan together, that buys time. But it is construction, and that means things are constantly changing. Design, build, and scheduling, and man, the moving parts that a contractor has in trying to fulfill and complete a project is really mind-boggling. And that stuff that comes up that they hadn't planned for, it really plays well in our wheelhouse. And most of the time when you're sawing or drilling, you're fixing a mistake or correcting something on the fly, or you're going off plan.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that that's really important to understand, and again, growing up in the construction supply business, I knew that very, very well. And that, yes, you are at the mercy of whatever happens that day. Somebody puts a pipe in your way, or somebody another subcontractor messes you up. And then all of a sudden you've got to be nimble and you've got to move. And you do depend on partners such as yourself to try to help with that solution.
Yeah, the curveballs that contractors face every day are countless.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, I think a lot of people don't give them enough credit, but these folks are really, really good managers of that unknown or that curveball. That is where contractors excel in many cases.
Exactly.
Anybody can be a rock star when you look at the blueprints and you get to build it exactly the way that the architect or the designer dreamed up, but that just never happens.
No question about it. And that's part of the excitement of this industry, I think, is what do they say, that expression, life's what happens in between plans? I mean, contractors are constantly having to improvise and make stuff up and make stuff work. And they become friends. And you see that same way of living and thinking in their social life, too. So it makes for folks that work real hard and play hard and really know how to get the most out of life.
You mentioned that difference in different markets and the different expectations and whatnot. And again, when you and I met, really, you were one location there in St. Paul and life was going good. You were doing well. And then you got this crazy idea. What if I open up a branch somewhere? If you wouldn't mind, take me through that mental progression and some of the challenges that you faced throughout going from one location to another. Because I think for many single location companies, that is one of the scariest propositions, but they feel like in order to thrive long term, they're going to have that secondary location. It's very rare that people will stay to the one, but would you mind sharing how that thought process went with you?
Yeah, I would love to, Jason. As I mentioned, we bought this business, my wife and I, in 1998. And in 2005, we finally made the big plunge and bought a building and built out a building and invited customers to see us and stocked it with equipment and hired a service team. And so our business model changed dramatically in 2005. And we had immediate success with this, and we're super excited. And there were a lot of manufacturers reps that always wondered, hey, why do you guys continue to do all your business at point of sale from your vehicle in the field? You really ought to have a store, a location where people can come to. And I certainly appreciate that encouragement. But anyway, the success we were having, I would often tell my wife, Elizabeth, I said, we have a really special niche. And I think we could take this to another market. I think we can scale this. Okay. She started hearing about that in 2005, and she heard it for many years. And a great friend or a great spouse holds you accountable to your words, right? So I was probably 40 years old, Jason, when I first started talking about this. When I was 50, she said, I'm tired of hearing about it. Okay. You're not getting any younger, Dan. You're 50. Let's move. And that was finally that push that really spoke to me and moved me. So a lot of things happened that year, and that was 2014. And I know I'd spent some time with you trying to think about and talk about what this would look like and where to go. But I also at the same time had started really changing from an entrepreneur that was doing everything, writing checks and sweeping floors and selling and managing a book of business and managing salespeople and doing the finance and budgeting and not really doing any of it particularly well. I moved that year into putting together a management team here, a leadership team. And that was huge because that bought me runway to really explore this idea and figure out how to find the time and the resources to get it done. I will mention, too, a friend of mine gave me a book called Traction, written by Gino Wickman.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's a good book for small business owners that are really trying to make that leap and take the business from one man or one woman band to a scalable operation. And that book really helped me with the building of the leadership team, really defining what our purpose was, putting together our core values, painting the vision. The visionary exercises that we went through were really terrific. And that included remote locations. And I wasn't sure how many of that was going to be. But my discussions, certainly with you at that time, were about, hey, where do we do this? How do we do this? We had a lot of our customers that were based in the Twin Cities that had a branch in Denver, Colorado. And so we were busy shipping product to Denver, and I would travel out there, and I was falling in love with the mountains and really kind of a natural path for where we should go next. And I remember talking to you about how exciting that would be, but yet how far away that is from the Twin Cities. By UPS, it's 3 days. It's a 14-hour drive. And really started to rethink the closer large markets near us. And of course, we were doing a lot of business in Wisconsin and Milwaukee, and ended up ultimately deciding to move to Waukesha, Wisconsin, suburb of Milwaukee. And we did that in 2015. So that conversation in 14, you're not getting any younger, boom, we really moved fast.
Yeah.
Kid you not, within 6 months, we had opened in May of 2015 in Waukesha, Wisconsin.
Now, when you went to Waukesha, well, I think if I recall correctly, you had field representatives, you were doing a lot of business, you really kind of softened up that market with a scout, essentially out there to really, out there pioneering that market. But then you opened the facility, and from day one, was it a raging success? I mean, you opened the building and they come flooding in the door, or how did that progression work for you?
Well, you're right. I'm an entrepreneur, but not like the classic entrepreneur. I make decisions with very calculated risk, and I probably move slower than a real true entrepreneur. So that scout for me was always important, that we put them in place and they started to drive revenue to a point where we then could substantiate a building and the kind of overhead, a technician and a repair center. And so we were at a pretty good place when we opened there in May of 2015. We immediately out of the gate hired a store manager, a mechanic, a sales rep. I think it took us 18 months to break even, which is kind of what people told me that it would take.
Yeah, that's right in the wheelhouse right there. I mean, that is right in the ballpark.
So that 18 months, it was nice to be able to, again, talk with you. You had been there and done that many times, opened stores, closed stores. You knew that you had the success stories and the not so successful challenges of.
Absolutely.
But you did it. You had a really good, firm understanding of the cost. I thought I knew that too, but it was really nice to have just some other mentors that helped me kind of shape what that investment would look like and how long it would take to get a return on it. So by the second year, we were driving a healthy profit, and we continue to grow that. We've been there now a little over 4 years. Got enough excitement and confidence to that. We ended up opening our third store in Denver, Colorado in October of 2018. And we're following the same path there. So things look to be bright there, and profitability, hopefully we'll do that sooner than 18 months. We certainly were able to open that store for less money. Those capital investments there, we got smarter after having done it once. And our leadership team, we kept a very detailed book of everything we did with that first branch that we opened, that second location. And we went through that with a fine-tooth comb to figure out where we could do that for less money and still do it well. Or maybe there were areas where we had to spend more money. So we're still learning. We're currently 3 locations, and I've got plans to do more. I really enjoy that. It's really fun to hire people with a unique ability, put them in place, and help support and develop them and watch them grow and succeed. That's really a rewarding part of running a business.
Absolutely. I mean, you take this idea and you are able to now apply resources to it. You're able to apply brick and mortar to it, and then provide people. And I'll tell you, the recruiting part of that is a little challenging. You're from St. Paul. You really don't have the deep connections there in Milwaukee. How did you find those different people? Was there a magic bullet, or is it, well, we'll just try a few out and see how it goes?
All of the above. So obviously we rely on our networks and our friends to refer employees to us. We certainly did that and found a gifted sales rep through that avenue in Milwaukee. We actually started at Denver by moving someone from our St. Paul store to Denver. That's really the ideal.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's the dream because they already really understand what we do. They get the culture. They have a really great idea of the vision and understand the details in between there of how to execute. But you're not always given that option in place. As far as then building it out and finding new people, we've used the traditional methods of using Indeed and other online avenues and sourcing through LinkedIn. We've done everything other than hire a recruiter. And at this point, unemployment is down to near zero. And I think our next hire or two, we maybe have to use an outside recruiter. We have a very gifted, talented inside human resource manager that has recruiting background. Because of that, we haven't had to go outside.
Well, and that's good that you can internalize that. But I think you are right that eventually you're going to have to at least outsource a part of that. It's not of course, the whole thing, but at least trying to get a little more. I mean, I've talked to, a few guests on this show and just generally with clients I've worked with and folks I know in the industry that this is one of the bigger challenges that they're facing right now, and really trying to uncover those potential customer service nuggets out there, those people who really understand that service mentality.
You're spot on with that. This business is all about service. And I talked about when we implemented Traction here, we had to define what our purpose and our passion and our cause is. And it's service. It's exceptional service to others, whether that's customers or teammates. That's what this business is all about. As a customer myself of places that I patronize, you don't get that experience that often, not often enough. And when you do, it's special and you feel good.
It does. And that's really interesting. And that just kind of dawned on me that I think those of us who came out of the customer service business or distribution being a highly service-based type of industry or type of organization, that we appreciate service and we can recognize it very, very quickly. And we look at it and we look for it really in all of our life.
Absolutely. You said it well.
All right. Well, hey, Dan, I'm looking at the time and I'm like, we have got to wrap this bad boy up. It's just been such a pleasure catching up with you, and I'm thinking, oh my God, there's so much more I could jump into. Any parting comments for those who are thinking about getting into distribution, or what advice would you give? Anything you could think of?
Well, I would tell you it's a lot of fun and it's a great challenge. And for me, the most fun part of distribution has been building something. And we've got a vision to build something much bigger than what we currently have in place. And I'm really proud of what we've done. The building itself, it's what contractors do, but building a business has a similar kind of rewarding aspect to it. And really critical to that is the people thing, is really, really surrounding yourself with great people and building a great team. That's an extremely obviously important thing, but it's a fun and challenging thing, especially now with the numbers of where unemployment is at. But to be able to find someone and assess their abilities and help them find an opportunity where they can take their unique ability to go out and help others and earn a living and continue to get better at what they do, that's super rewarding work. From that standpoint, I would say, yeah, distribution, it's a great business. And it's, as you know, Jason, the amount of competition we all face from the internet and from the Amazons of the world and telemarketers and all kinds of large players and other niche players, the competition's endless and it comes from every direction. And so to have to be creative to figure out how to move your team forward to go out and compete, that's extremely fun, rewarding, challenging. And so, yeah, I feel pretty blessed to be in a position of running a distribution business.
Never a dull moment, is it?
Never a dull moment. You got that right.
Okay. Well, hey, Dan, thank you so much for taking the time. And hey, I look forward to the next time our paths cross.
You got it, Jason. Thanks so much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, consider hitting that subscribe button. Links to sponsors, products, and services mentioned during this episode can be found in the show description area on your podcast application or at www.distributiontalk.com. Distribution Talk is edited and mixed by Andrea Klunder and Edwin Ruiz at the Creative Imposter Studios. This episode was brought to you by my company, The Distribution Team. We are a consulting services firm dedicated to helping wholesale distribution clients remove barriers to profitability, generate wealth, and achieve personal goals. To learn more about how we can help your company succeed, check us out at www.thedistributionteam.com.